Hi guys, it's Shayla again from Freckle Finance, and today I thought I would give you a house buying update. If you're new to this channel, make sure you click that subscribe button below. I upload videos on financial independence, personal finance, and lifestyle. So to get right into it, the last video about purchasing a house was deciding whether we were going to even consider buying a house or not. So we have decided at this point to continue moving forward with buying a house. Now, if it's going to happen for sure, it hasn't happened yet. We haven't bought a house. But we are definitely proceeding forward as if we are going to be buying a house. And that will be on a 15-year mortgage. We discussed it at length. In no terms do we want to be doing the 30-year mortgage with the interest rate and with the 3 points is just, that's the real killer too, but with the rate being almost 1% higher on the 30-year mortgage. But we did do a rent versus buy calculator, and there was a significant difference in the advantage to be owning versus renting, even in as short of a time period as 5 years. It is a very nasty housing market here. Houses can go for hundreds of thousands of dollars over asking price for stuff that still needs work. And those are obviously the more in-demand areas, and you can find houses that don't go over price. However, they tend to be in less desirable locations or just not as great school areas. We do now have a real estate agent, and we've looked at some houses. And we've decided, at least for now, we are going to be looking at brand new builds. Now, this area doesn't have that many. And we almost actually bought one. We had one on hold, we were ready to buy it, and then we found out that the lot was near a main road. So we ultimately went into another house that was just as close to the road, and that one was built and ours wouldn't be. And it just was not something my husband could handle. There was a constant noise. The insulation was not great for keeping out the noise, but this is Northern California. We don't need that much insulation in terms of weather anyways. But we were ready to pull the trigger. We had our checkbook on us, ready to put the deposit on it, and we ultimately didn't go for that house. And it honestly, I feel like turned out to be a really great decision. I never got super attached to the house because I felt my husband was always hesitant and really trying to convince himself that he wants the house because the houses look really nice on the inside, etc., but you know, you can't get rid of traffic in your area. So we decided that that is in fact a deal breaker for us, and so we won't be moving forward. As well, that was a townhouse, so it was attached on one side because it was an end-unit townhouse, and that was fine. We were okay with that. And also the schools were rated really good in that area. But as I said, the noise is a deal breaker. We looked up older homes, we went on Zillow and looked up some older homes in the area. We called our agent and asked how much we could expect to pay over the price listed, and nothing else was in our price range. So that to me is a little weird that there was nothing else really in our price range used, at least as long as how many bedrooms we want and square footage. We weren't even looking at, there were some single detached houses in our price range, but they were either small or needed a lot of work, which is not something that we are wanting to do. Fast forward to a few hours later, I had put myself on an interest list for a development that was opening, and I had received an email that people who were on the interest list were able to come see the model homes that weekend, which from the time I'm filming, it was last weekend from the time I'm filming. So we're all like, oh no, we gave up this home. It was quite a whirlwind of emotions because we're like, we're gonna buy a home, to like, nope, no, we're not gonna buy that home actually. Before we went to see the open houses, I quickly did check like the schools. The schools were not as good, but I think they are sufficient. We don't have a child now, so hopefully the schools will either stay the same or improve, and I'm fine with it because the high school and the junior high school are okay, and it's just the elementary school that's not rated as highly, but it's still within what I consider to be acceptable. As well, if I'm trying to buy a house in this area, I can't really be that picky about getting the top school district because those houses are beyond out of our price range, usually even with our 30-year mortgage approval. So it's like crazy expensive here, and that's just how it works. So this new development that just opened last weekend is in a different city, but it's very close. It's still about the same amount of commute for my husband, and so that's not that big of a deal. Now, the houses are about the same price for a single detached home, and it actually has what I would consider to be a decent sized backyard. at least from what I'm used to with Toronto and Northern California. So by no means is it like a massive yard. You know, you can basically have a barbecue and a table out there and maybe like a little play set. That's all it'll fit. But that's all I want out of my backyard anyways. And so we really liked these homes. So we actually spent probably about 3 hours there. And I guess this development is quite in demand. So they are doing something called a lottery next weekend, this coming Saturday from when I post this video. And basically you show up for the lottery, you draw a number. If your number gets called, you get to buy the house. And it depends on how many people show up, how many people are interested in your model of home. They are only selling 8 homes currently. So it's not a lot, and there was a lot of people there. And with us being on a TN visa, we basically spent a long time there because we wanted to ensure we wouldn't have issues with getting pre-approvals through their lenders, which they insist on having in order for you to buy their house. You don't have to go with their lender, but you have to be pre-approved. And in fact, we actually got a special exception that they're not going to have us pre-approved in time, but that they're going to give us a pre-qualification. And because we already have a pre-approval through another bank, they're basically allowing us. So that's basically where we're at. We're going to go next weekend and we're going to try to buy one of those houses. Now, this seems really insane, and I understand. And we called our agent and we asked about any houses that were for sale, even in that entire city. It's not a very big city, so even within that entire city that were for sale, within kind of this, the minimum amount of square footage and bedrooms that we wanted. It didn't have to be a single detached house or whatever, but it just had to, you know, have specific requirements for the inside of the house, which we're not that picky about. There was almost none. There was about one that was fully redone, that was within our price range, but it was built in 1960, and we don't really want to be dealing with an older home. And in fact, all of the homes for sale in this city are built in 1960, except the new builds. And we just don't like the insulation that were put into those homes that were built in the 60s. And that's a very expensive thing to replace. And so it's not really something we could easily compromise on. I'm sure there will be times when newer homes come up for sale, but from what I've been told, there hasn't really been that many new homes that have been built in this area, or this further away area, as I referred to in my last video, because we're not buying closer to his work. This is the further away location. There hasn't been that many new houses built, and they're kind of trying to ramp up on it, but that's why there's such a big demand for new homes, which hopefully in the long run would improve the price of the home really quickly. If there's people like fighting to get new homes, you would hope that would have a good prospect on the appreciation of the home. As for single detached homes in the entire area that we would possibly be willing to live in terms of how far my husband would be from work, there is only one other development of single detached homes that we can afford. Unfortunately, the school district, well, not the district, but the elementary school is really bad. It's rated a 4. It could potentially increase. The houses, they don't have model homes, which is a little apprehensive in the first place because we don't really know what the finishes are going to look like. But on top of that, they've got the mock-up photos of the outside, and the houses kind of look ugly. And they're not really that much cheaper considering how much worse the school is. So basically, if we don't get this house this weekend, they will give us other options because they're going to keep releasing a few homes every few weeks apparently, and if we lose out this week, we get 2 chances at the lottery next time. But if we continue to lose out of that, we're going to have to reevaluate. But according to the New York Times rent versus buy calculator, which I will link below for anyone who's interested in using it, if you get the correct numbers, it's extremely informative. Like, it's basically a ripoff here renting, and I don't mean that it's a ripoff everywhere to rent. That is not true, but rent is crazy here. It's apparently slowed down in the increase of how much it's been going up, but it still increases. And I had a friend whose rent went up about 10%. Because they're allowed to do that here. They can just increase your rent by 10%, which is basically forcing her to either buy a house or move and find another place. You don't really get a lot of advantages for continuing to stay in the same place. And that's another advantage for us owning. We're not going to be forced to move out of an area just because the rent is so high all of a sudden. If you have any further questions regarding us buying a house, just how it's all working, how is this possible since we are Canadian citizens and we've only been in the country 4 months, definitely feel free to ask the questions down below. If there's enough questions, I can just do a Q&A on it. So just let me know. I will be more than glad to answer your questions. And give this video a big thumbs up for buying a house, hopefully. And remember, no matter what your financial situation is, make sure to have a great day. Bye.